What's behind the highly unusual move to block Minnesota officials from investigating the ICE shooting? Wait, what? This is actually pretty interesting. Uh-oh. CNN's giving the business. We're gonna have to give CNN the business. I thought I already gave them the business, but let me log in real quick. I'm logging in. That's what I'm doing to make sure that I'm logged in. All right, here we go. I thought we already logged in. They say mutual distrust between federal and state authorities derailed plans for a joint FBI and state criminal investigation into Wednesday's shooting of a Minneapolis woman by ICE, leading to the highly unusual move by the DOJ to block state investigators from participating in the probe. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension said Thursday that after an initial agreement for the FBI to work with the state agency, as well as prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis and the Hennepin County's Attorney's Office to investigate the shooting, federal authorities reversed course, and the FBI blocked the BCA from participating in the investigation. You know what I love about this? We did a debate show earlier, and I said this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. I said Trump's not going to let him do it. And Dave said, it's a state-level thing, they'll do it. And I'm like, yeah, but they're going to pull the guy to the state, and there's not going to be charges. So let me just put it like this. I don't care whose side you're on. I don't care if you're a liberal or conservative. Just understand what time it is. The feds are not allowing a criminal investigation from the state of a cop who shot a lady. It doesn't matter if you think he was justified. It doesn't matter if you think he was not justified. The point is the federal government and the state governments have bisected and are now at odds with each other. Where does that go? Like, is there, Phil, in your mind, a circumstance by which the federal government apologizes and says, let's come back together, boys?
I think that's probably unlikely.
Yeah. So what happens next? And I mean, it's not a rhetorical, it's not a joke question. I'm not trying to make someone scream civil war. I'm literally asking if the federal government is now saying to the states, we're not going to work with you on these things. What does the state do? And then what is the next thing that's going to happen?
Legitimately, I think the state stands down. I don't think that I don't think they push the issue. I don't think that they're in a position where they have the ability to do it.
You think this guy won't be prosecuted?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
I think they'll try to bring charges against him.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I think the state is going to try to bring charges.
They may try, but I don't think that he's going to actually stand. I don't think it's.
No, I agree. He won't stand trial. I don't know for sure, but I would say the probability lies with the federal government's not going to let them prosecute this guy.
Yeah, that's
But this is getting weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't see a world the DOJ just lets them try to railroad this guy. They learned their lesson in 2020 after Chauvin, like the state and everybody.
But what are the ramifications of outstanding criminal charges in Minnesota against a cop who shot and killed a person, and the federal government being like, we're going to protect him from prosecution?
Trump and Vance have stated many times to law enforcement, we have your back and stuff. So I don't know what it means for.
And recently.
Yeah.
On this specifically, I believe.
Yeah. I don't know what it means for overall for the relations between the federal government and the state of Minnesota. But it's not going to.
I'm not even talking about Minnesota. Other blue states have reciprocity. So technically, every state has criminal reciprocity with every other state, but not anymore. Florida would not extradite this guy.
Nope.
If this cop comes to Florida to lay low and Minnesota brings charges, ain't nobody in Florida going to let them come into Florida and rendition him.
Not at all.
And think about what happens if the federal government doesn't step into these operations. Into this, the ICE operations would cease. Mm-hmm. And outside of just this incident, right before this, they were already intimidating the police that same day. Yeah. And now after this, imagine what that environment is like. So the federal government has to step in.
Yeah, it would be open season on cops. You can just ram them with your car. Like
exactly.
That's the precedent now is you can just, if you feel any pressure whatsoever from the police, just step on the accelerator and you'll get a Twins tickets the next morning.
J.D. Vance said, I want every ICE officer to know that their president, vice president, the entire administration stands behind them. To the radicals assaulting them, doxing them, and threatening them, congratulations. We're going to work even harder to enforce the law.
Based.
If the DOJ, the federal government, DHS, Vance, Trump, whoever you want to name, Kristi Noem, allows this cop to be prosecuted in Minnesota, ICE is going to quit en masse. Mm-hmm. And the Trump administration may as well resign on the spot because their agenda will never come close to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, that's reason enough why the Minnesota and the left would want to see him prosecuted because they know that it would destabilize the law. And
think of the narrative.
Law enforcement overall.
If, outside of the morality of who was right, who was wrong, if Minnesota says, here's my prediction. Jacob Frey and Waltz or anyone else, the DA, they're going to do a press conference where they say, we are not here to assert that this man is guilty of any crimes. We are here to say that there was an officer-involved shooting that requires an investigation. And based on the analysis of that investigation, a grand jury will choose to indict. They'll likely say a grand jury has returned an indictment for which now he can stand before a jury of his peers. They're going to approach it very neutrally. Trump cannot allow this guy to face the prosecution because he will lose no matter what.
Yeah.
Which means the Minnesota government and Democrats will then say Donald Trump is shielding a murderer who killed a woman in cold blood. Other blue states will line behind that. This is a crazy situation because I don't see an exit for anyone other than this is how things escalate to state on state or feds versus state.
Yeah, I mean, it's one more step down the road, right?
But a big one.
This
is a jump down 10 of the stairs.
I don't know how fast things deteriorate, but this is definitely, moving in the direction of deteriorating.
Well, the feds hold the cards. I mean, we saw back earlier in 2025 when Trump just took the National Guard, federalized it, and then, Newsom complained about it and said he was going to do everything he could, and then nothing happened. So the state's avenues towards retribution here is very, very limited. The federal government has all the cards here in this instance. This
My
is 100% their
understanding is
jurisdiction.
that I think there was a lawsuit filed. I don't know if it was by the government in California, but then there was a California judge that said the National Guard presence is illegal, and then there was another judge that saw it and overturned that and said no, it was legal. And I think they're still sorting it out in the courts.
They are.
But as far as it's probably if he said anything along the lines of I'm gonna use every single thing that I can do to resist it. It's probably saber rattling or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, legally, slow and steady wins the race. So him doing anything other than waiting for the court to adjudicate it would just be LARPing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you.
Because a state government's never going to be able to overcome the might of federal agents being deployed or the U.S. military or anything like that.
Let me ask you. So
Supremacy clause.
you believe there will be prosecution of the agent?
I don't know. I believe they're going to bring charges, but do you mean federal or state?
Well, that's what I mean. State level will bring charges against him.
Yes.
I agree with you. I think they will. The question is, as we've discussed, now I'll ask you, do you think the federal government will evacuate this guy and avoid the prosecution, or you think they'll let him get prosecuted?
I think this administration has shown that they will brazenly ignore the law. They'll ignore court orders. They will lie if they want to. So I would say it's in the realm of possibility, sure, that they would definitely try to stand behind this officer to the point that you're talking
prevent
about.
Prosecution.
But don't you think that would be wrong if they were trying to tip the scales that much?
But so here's the important thing. Let's set aside our opinions on the morality of whether it whether it's good or bad. But because I agree with you, I think they will bring charges. They have to, and I believe Trump will try to shield this guy from those charges and prosecution. So I think we're in agreement that whether it's good or bad isn't material. That's likely what's
He's
going to
a martyr.
So the question I have for you is, should this agent, say, go to Florida, where it's a very favorable state, do you think that Minnesota should take any action to try and extradite him back to Minnesota for these charges, for this trial?
Yes. And I think whether or not Florida tries to stand behind this person will come down to public opinion, because I don't think that Ron DeSantis is done trying to become president. So he's going to try to read the room and see, is there the political will for me to stand behind this ICE officer and basically do this come and take it shit and let him turn fucking Mar-a-Lago into his fortress?
Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty. I mean, the only real action that Minnesota could take would be to send state troopers to Florida.
I guess so, yeah.
So
unless there's other ways that you can extradite somebody from another state.
It's going to be by force, right?
Yeah.
So Minnesota, in any capacity, I'll try and avoid being overly specific due to my point is not to bring up the laws and the regulations of state troopers, but the point is, in order to get this guy out of Florida as an example of a friendly state, they would have to send people to forcefully pull him from the state.
Yes.
Arrest him, put him in a vehicle and drive him there. Do you think they should?
Yeah, of course.
So that being the case, what do you think Florida law enforcement would do if Minnesota law enforcement entered extra jurisdictional territory to apprehend a man that is lawfully in their state?
I mean, I think it's going to be a staring contest, and I don't know if it's going to come down to what that individual precinct decides to do. I don't know if they're going to be looking to take orders from just people locally, or if they're going to be looking to Ron DeSantis and the state government broadly to see what they can do, what they ought to do. That's why I don't think that this is any sort of principled action that would be plan that would come from Florida. I do think it's determined almost exclusively by public opinion and what they think they can get away with.
I agree.
If they see will among the base that, especially the conservative base that DeSantis is trying to pick up for 2028 or a run after that, then he'll stand behind the officer. If he sees public favor turn against him, then he will be like, we can't obstruct justice or pretend like he won't say, I'm going to cooperate. He's just not going to tell them, get in the way of them being extradited.
So here's the thing. States never send law enforcement to other states for law enforcement. They use the feds for that. So typically what would happen is Minnesota would file with the federal government and local authorities and say, typically what happens is, because we're the United States, Minnesota would say to Florida, hey, this guy's pending charges. We want you guys to arrest him and then send him our way. In the circumstance where a state is like, we're not interested in what you're talking about, they go to the feds and say, interstate, crime, like this guy fled our state. He's guilty, like he's wanted for charges. The federal government's not going to intervene. Minnesota can't send anybody. That would be like, we're getting into war territory if Minnesota sends armed men to apprehend a guy in another state.
Very least,
No, 'cause
cross-state
you're-
border manhunts is just not an optimal
Yeah, it doesn't-
solution.
it doesn't
Then
happen.
you're
It's
just
not
waiting out the clock, because all you have to do is wait till the midterms or wait till if Trump leaves office or something were to happen, all they have
Yeah.
to do is wait for
If-
an administration to come along, somebody that's willing
If Trump
to
leaves
cooperate.
office.
Yeah.
If he leaves office, if he dies, if whatever it is.
It's for the federal courts to decide. And so, okay, you escalate it to the Supreme Court, and then the precedent is, this gets hashed out of the federal court. So
But-
they'll just go back to the original ruling, which was like, no, you can't extradite.
But you also made another really good point about DeSantis' presidential aspirations, which means in the event, let's say the midterms happen, Democrats can get congressional authority and file subpoenas against this guy and others, and then make that move to try and jail him. The Republicans argue this is a circuitous method by which they're trying to get this guy on charges that are trumped up or whatever. The point is, DeSantis, if he has any political aspirations, cannot let... Again, hold on, let me pause. We don't know the guy would go to Florida. I'm saying hypothetical state is Florida because Florida is very favorable. In the event that happens, anyone with political aspirations would be thinking, if I allow this guy to be taken from my state, I will never get elected.
Mm-hmm.
But so now we're in very, very fucked up territory. Like, we're there right now.
Yep.
So you would think it was wrong. Like,
To extradite him?
well, how do you feel about that?
I think states should not send personal state law enforcement to other states to apprehend individuals. I think that,
Even if the federal government won't comply?
yes.
Okay.
The-
Do you think
the-
it would be right for the Trump administration to continue standing behind this ICE officer as there are pending charges that he's supposed to be facing in his home state
Well, we don't know this is home state.
or in Minnesota?
So that's one of the challenges too. If he lives there, it's a different picture. The challenge is now we're getting into the morality of when we would and would not allow action by government. Just because government has the power of law doesn't mean they're moral or right. And that's the lesson Godwin's law everybody learned from Nazi Germany. Just because they passed a law saying they could doesn't mean it was right, and they should have, and we should have allowed it. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.